Hi, there you are with all those beautiful guitars in the background.
Oh, they're everywhere.
Yeah, well, they ought to be. That's your tool of trade, right?
Yeah, this is my this is where all the magic happens.
Rich
But
Williams, one of the founding members of Kansas, about to embark on their 50th anniversary tour, and they're coming to Chicago, as a matter of fact, very, very shortly. So, how's the 50th tour coming along thus far?
let's see, we've done 8 shows. They've all been fantastic. Um, just it's been a great reception, better than really we'd hoped. I thought it was going to go well. It's been 50 years, and it's been a very successful tours for the last 8 years or so, anyway. But this one is really kicking off to a very solid start.
You know, there's some interesting Chicago connections to the band from Kansas, which is from Topeka, but former Robbie Steinhardt was born here in Chicago, and currently Ronnie Platt, who's your singer, is from this area as well.
Yeah, and our we have Phil hurt his arm, so he's just playing part of the show. He was out for 6 months, and Eric Holmquist was our drum tech, but he's been an understudy of Phil for the last 15, 20 years. So he's also performing. Phil will be, as will Eric. So we have two Chicago folks playing with us.
Unfortunately, you can't rename the band because that name has been taken.
I've heard of
Yeah, they've done well as well.
them.
So yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing. So they have the guys that are from currently and past from Chicago introduced you to some of the Chicago stuff like food and traditions and some of the sayings and whatnot.
Oh yeah, and God, we played so many places in Chicago. I mean, with the first album, we were playing at a place. It was called the Corporation, out west of the airport. That was a small club that we first started playing. I mean, we've played was the Aragon Ballroom several times. Whatever the old Enormo Dome was, that was just an Echo Dome, is what it was. Played there several times. Oh gosh, I mean, it just goes on and on.
You know, to that end, some of the earlier stuff, there's the legend that Carry On Wayward Son was actually a last minute consideration. It was not part of the original sort of vision for the album, and it was added in at the last minute. Is that an accurate story?
Well, yes, it was. Kerry was on a terror. He was just writing constantly, and we were rehearsing in Topeka, working on material to record, and it was our very last day, and just kind of figured we weeded out a lot of songs, and we had culled what we wanted. And Terry comes in the last day, because I got one more song, and I don't think there was a lot of enthusiasm. We just thought we'd run through everything real quick, pack up, and leave for. We were recording in Bogalusa, Louisiana, at Studio in the Country, and yeah, we got one more, okay, and so he started playing, and so this has got a lot of promise. So we threw that into the pile. Now we go to the studio, and recording is an assembly line process where they spend all day getting drum sounds and all that. Then once you're set up, you don't want to move the drums, or so we're going for all the basic tracks of all the drums. Bass guitar playing along, a lot of times a rhythm guitar. And vocals are in the booth just to keep us a reference of where we are, etc. And finally, it's, well, we need to get working on that new song because we hadn't really learned it. And so we learned Wayward Son in the studio, and tape was rolling. And the version on record is probably the first time where the producer pushed the button and said, I think we've got a take. And we came in, listened to it, and said, yes, we can work from here. And so that was how that song came about. Was Gary just had a last minute writing surge, and here comes Wayward Son. Then we added the a cappella to the beginning because we thought it was such a strong chorus. And that was the song that we were slowly building, excuse me, an audience, but that song kicked the door down for us. That was a career builder and maker.
Pretty amazing to hear that it was maybe the first or second take when you laid that one down, because it sounds like you had been practicing it for months because it's so tight.
Well, it wasn't. No, we it wasn't the first or second take. It was just the first time we got it right. We'd probably been doing takes all day.
Got it. It was, well, you know what? It's a fairly complex song, so I can understand why you had to take a few cracks at it.
And wait, you're taking twists and turns along the way. It's like, well, wait a minute, stop. What if we do this? And what if we do that? Okay, let's do that. Let's remove this. Let's double this part up. That type of thing just organically happens in the recording process.
You know, it's interesting that it was kind of a last-minute addition, because this story has played out numerous times. Black Sabbath, Paranoid, Def Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me, Kansas, Carry On Wayward Son. You know what? We need one more song for this album, and it becomes a defining song for the band.
Well, what's the next album, Point of No Return, Dust in the Wind, was very similar. We had a bunch of songs culled, and we're in rehearsals, and Kerry walks in one day and he goes, I've got another song that's probably not anything we would do. It's not, we just don't do this type of stuff, but I just thought I'd throw it on the pile. And so he turned on his reel-to-reel tape recorder, and it was just him, kind of roughly playing through the song on an acoustic, and he's holding the lyric sheet, and he's kind of singing the melody, and Steve Walsh is looking over his shoulder reading the lyrics. And he was done. And I think it was Dave Hope said, where did that song come from? And he goes, you guys like it? And I said, that's our next single. And Kerry Kerry wasn't sure about it at all. And we knew it right away that was going to be our next single.
Yeah, that was one of my next questions was, did you know when you were recording it, oh boy, sounds like some of you did, some of you didn't.
Yeah, that song was pretty much across the board, except for the writer. He was surprised we'd even do it, let alone it being a single.
Well, you know what? Forest for the trees, right? Sometimes you're too close to it. You don't realize what you've just done.
And it didn't really fit. What genre was that? I mean, there's always a certain vibe going on, with the hits of the day. And that certainly wasn't it. So I can understand why anybody think, this might be good, but it's not what's happening on the radio today. But there are certain songs that defy what is deemed popular at the moment. And Dust in the Wind was one of those. It was just such a well-written, great lyrics. It's a timeless song.
You know what? It's interesting that you should bring this up, because I was about to ask you, what do you consider Kansas to be? Is it a progressive? What's the vision in your head? A progressive rock band? I've always thought progressive rock band, but with pop sensibilities in order to keep things short and tight and to the point.
Well, that's correct. We, in trying to figure out and put it in a box, why don't we just start calling it Kansas music? Because there are a lot of very progressive elements to it. But then, let's say, down the road is just a butt-kicking boogie-woogie. So there is Lonely Wind is just a very nice ballad. So we were kind of all over the map from the beginning, and it was something we kind of stuck with. We didn't want to be just flatline one thing. Mm-hmm. We wanted to have variety, ups and downs, fast and slow, very prog and very easy to listen to. Just a little bit of it all has always been the goal on a record.
Well, one of the things that helps make you stand out, and perhaps this is where the prog rock comparisons come in, is the chops of the band are very sharp and very tight. So that potentially is a prog rock sort of thing, where the instrumentation is over the top and very well done.
Well, thank you. Terry was always writing in that vein. We'd all played in some bands together, different bands, playing the top 40 of the day, and a lot of the FM deeper cuts of the day. The stuff that the club owners would want you to play. And so we'd done that. We'd done it. Okay, we got to play the song at the prom and whatever. By the time we got into our early 20s, we didn't really want to do that anymore. Just play more cover songs. There was a creative itch that needed to be scratched that came very naturally. And we started doing that even like in a band White Clover we were in previously, and then with Kansas, where we'd play a song in a bar and we'd just say, well, this is Journey from Marybron. It's on the flip side of Smoke on the Water. And the club owners wouldn't flinch because they thought it was a Deep Purple song and we could get away with it. So that's how we started introducing some of our material performing it live. But then we have a violin player. So where do you fit that in exactly? He's not a fiddle player. We weren't a fiddle band. And so that by nature, very much like Jethro Tull, was very progressive. And with a lot of classical influence. Well, with the violin, that came too. But Kerry was a classical music fan. We were all very into the progressive movement that was coming out of Europe and Britain. And so we started writing. What that really taught us was, here's the box that music is in, throw it away, throw away the rule book. But we still had our roots that we were playing from. We played, in the days, me and Dave Hope were playing like deep, a lot of Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, Young Rascals, a lot of, Motown, just a lot of stuff. So we always played we had a hard-hitting rhythm section. We never had a light, delicate touch, never really learned to do that very well. And so our approach to a more classical thing, underneath we were a rock band, but on top it was a lot more intricate. And arranging a violin, where do you put that? So you might add a synthesizer and a guitar line with it to create a section of a symphony. And so just the nature of the instrumentation and where we wanted to go with it all was the Kansas approach to progressive music.
I think you're right. At the end of the day, it was a confluence and a combination of a bunch of different influences, and it became just Kansas music because it was different than anybody else specifically, but it incorporated a bunch of different elements.
I can live with that.
Kansas music. So over the years, and I ask everybody this because they always have one of those moments that's a funny sort of tell your friends later story, and maybe it wasn't funny at the time, but it becomes funny later. A quote-unquote Spinal Tap moment that happened to you or the band that is a moment of levity when you talk about it or relive it.
Well, the first one that comes to mind, and there's been so many, it's hard to remember them all. But it was one of our first times out. First album was out. And two quick stories. The first show we did, we drove up to Lincoln, Nebraska, played with the J.A. Giles band. And we didn't know what to do. We pulled up with our trailer, and where did we go? Well, we found the back of the building and kind of asking them, why do you bring all your stuff in here? And we had a couple of roadies, and they put stuff in on stage, and we didn't know where to go. So we're kind of roaming around up front, checking out the PA system and stuff. And where did we go? Said, well, go back here. You have a dressing room. So, oh, wow, really? And so they took us to his dressing room, and we walked in, and there's a deli tray in there. There's like Wonder Bread and some bologna and cheese and mustard. And it's like, we just kind of froze. It was like, this has got to be JBL's room. We're in the wrong room. So we went out and said, there's food in this room. This can't be our room. I said, oh, no, that's for you. And we were just stunned. Like, this is what the big time is all about. And we just mowed through that deli tray. We just had never seen anything like that before. The next time we went out with the Kinks and did, I'm not sure how many shows, but the first stop was in Phoenix at a place called the Celebrity Theater, which is it's a theater in the round where you're in the center. And so the first night, you come onto the stage from down below the stage and you walk on. And so we played, and I just remember when it stopped. I remember we came in, from the front. And so, and I, with one eye, I don't see that well anyway. And in the seating area, there's these spokes that go up all the way around, which is the aisles. Well, the spotlight's on us, and I just looked up and I just saw what turned out to be one of the aisles, and I thought it was the exit. I had my guitar in my hand, and I just walked right off the edge of the stage, tumbled to the ground, landed on my feet. Now what? And so I'm holding my guitar, and so I just start walking up the aisle. And everybody's clapping and stuff, and where do I go? I get to the top, and I look behind me, and the band is standing back in the back of the stage area. They're all just bent over laughing. And I had to walk all the way around the circle and come back down an aisle and then finally get down the exit. If I could have found a broom closet or something, I would have just gone in and shut the door and held it till the show was over. We've played there several times since, and I have to relive that story with Phil being the last original member. But it's Rich, tell the story. That is an event I will see on my deathbed.
Yeah, that's a where am I and oh no. Yeah, an oh no moment. I thought that there would be a few of those. Thank you for sharing those. A last couple of questions here before we wrap up and let you go. Last real job you had before you realized, hey, you know what? I think I could become a full-time musician and go pro here and, make it maybe not with much to spare, but I can pay my bills with my craft now. What was the last job that you had before you were able to do that?
I had one job. When I was in college, I worked in a liquor store for probably about 6 months. Probably wasn't the best thing because, excuse me, I became an alcoholic. And I haven't drank for, I think, 14 years now. But that's the only job I ever had other than that and being in a band. And band has never really been looked at as a job. It's just been, but my daughter asked me, Dad, what do you want me to do? When she went into the service. But, what do you want to do in my life? I said, I want you to find something you're passionate about and do that. And I want you to do something that'll make you happy. That was my version of success. And that's what worked for me. Had I not done this, I'd be a miserable drunk back in Topeka, probably working, swabbing at a bar every night.
Well, as they say, find something you love. You'll never work a day in your life.
And that's a fact.
Yep.
That being said, there are days when, the travel is torture or whatever. But a long time ago, when I knew this is what I wanted to do, I signed up for the whole thing. The good times, the bad times, the bad food, the bad travel, the disappointments, the heartbreaks, the victories, the defeats, all of it. I've somehow accepted all of that as what I was going to do.
And the deli tray travails. But it sounds like you were actually happy with your deli tray.
Oh, we were tickled. Yeah. The food has gotten much better over
Yeah,
there.
I was going to say probably. So, for those that are coming to the 50th anniversary tour, which includes a stop here in Chicago at the Chicago Theater, what can they expect for those that have never seen Kansas before, for those that have seen Kansas before?
Well, for somebody that's never seen us, it's there's a lot going on stage. We've got some really good players playing a lot of pretty intricate things. A lot of activity. It's powerful. We've always wanted to be kind of mow you over, and not just with volume so much, but with we have a lot of very majestic moments, a lot of very powerful moments, a lot of very moving moments, a lot of very just in your face butt kicking moments. Just a bit of it all. And what we're doing on this tour is representing another fork in the road, which is the 50th anniversary album that has stuff from our whole career. And so that's what we're touching on this tour, playing some songs we haven't played in 45 years, just bringing out stuff from all versions of Kansas, just a little bit of it all. And so it's been extremely well accepted.
Well, we're really looking forward to seeing you here in Chicago. Rich Williams of Kansas fame of the 50th anniversary tour stopping at the Chicago Theater very, very soon. Thank you so much, Rich. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and really enjoyed the stories.
Oh, well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And that's a beautiful theater. We've been there once, and wow, it's very exciting to get to go back.